Good evening, everybody. My name is Brandon Nelson, president of the Rainbow Democrats, and welcome to the fourth event in our guest speaker series, a debate between the Democratic candidates for House District 31, Deborah Kaplan and Chrissy Stile. I'm going to go ahead and give them an opportunity to do opening statements. I'm going to go ahead and start with Deborah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you what you said.
Oh, sorry. I was going to go ahead and give you an opportunity to do opening statements.
Okay, do you want me to go first?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Deborah Kaplan. I live in Eustis and I moved to Florida in 1989. I live in Eustis and I built this house here. I was a journalist for many, many years, 27. I'm in business development now, and in 2018 I ran for State House seat 31 against Jennifer Sullivan, who currently holds a seat but has decided not to run again. The reason I'm running is I feel the people of this district have not been represented. And when I say people, I'm talking about working people, the poor, the disenfranchised, who have not had a voice in Tallahassee because special interests who grease the palms of politicians get all the say. I really believe that it's time that people who really pay the taxes here, the people who are working, get a chance to get things done in Tallahassee for them. Improving the environment, making public schools get paid better by the state, not having the money go to charter schools without any accountability. I also want to see we stop the school to jail pipeline with diversion programs, and also look at our judiciary system to make sure that it's fully funded so everybody has a fair trial, so that trial lawyers who are not being who are private but are taking on the cases don't have to take a lot of the money out of their own pockets to defend these people. Under a budget that Scott had in 2016, before the current election occurred with DeSantis, he underfunded the judiciary, and so private public defenders didn't get the money they needed to hire the witnesses, expert witnesses they needed, and unless they took it out of their own pocket. So those are some of the things that I'd like to work on, besides making sure that we don't frack and that we don't drill offshore. Want to protect the environment and make life better for all Floridians, no matter what their income level is.
Perfect. Thank you, Deborah. And Chrissy?
Yes, thank you so much, Brandon. Thank you to Brandon, Matthew, Jack, and all the members of the Rainbow Democrats for holding this forum. I appreciate being invited. So my name is Chrissy Stile. I am currently a Mount Dora City Council member. I've been on City Council for 2 years, which makes me the only candidate running for District 31 State House with any government experience. I am an independent bookstore owner. As you can see behind me, I've had my bookstore in Mount Dora for coming up on 9 years. That's allowed me to really make a name for myself in this town, in this entire county, and that is the main reason I really feel like we can flip this seat back to blue. This seat has not been Democrat since 1998, and I really am super confident that I can flip this seat back based, as I said, on my government experience and also my education. So I graduated from Stetson University with a degree in accounting and stayed the additional year to earn my master's in business. I have all the corporate experience, but what it comes down to is I really just enjoy working with people. Being in my bookstore every day, 7 days a week for the last almost 9 years has allowed me to really reach out to people and listen to people, which is what got me into City Council. So I never in a million years would have imagined that I'd embrace this opportunity as I have, and I absolutely love being a public servant. Which is what's pushed me into running for State House, is our lack of leadership right now. You never hear from your representatives. And especially at this time with COVID-19 and everything that's going on, as a resident, as a business owner, my representatives, my state senators are non-existent. And this is the time we need them the most. So what I do on City Council is put myself out there as much as I possibly can. I don't think you could find a resident in the city of Mount Dora that doesn't know how to find me or reach me, and they know they'll get an answer, they know they'll get help. and I'll do the same thing at the state level. And basically the umbrella of the reason that I'm running is a quality of life, and that's equality for everybody, but a quality of life for all Floridians. It's just important to me to be able to listen to people, be able to help them enjoy their life, whether it be having a new curb installed or something as important and as serious as equal rights for race, religion, sexual identity, gender. I just want people to enjoy where they live, why they live here, and that's really the main reason that I'm running. And thank you again for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Chrissy.
Sure.
So I wanted to go ahead and get started with the questions. The first question I'm going to actually direct to you, Chrissy. So 2 weeks ago, the Orange County Democratic Party had a forum between yourself and Deborah. And one of the questions that was asked was, would you support a statewide ban on conversion therapy? You had answered no, and then the follow-up question that Chairman Hodge had answered was, would you at least consider a conversion therapy ban for minors under the age of 18? Do you still stand by what you said, or not?
Absolutely not. So I would first have to apologize for anybody who saw that interview and obviously would have taken offense to my answer. So I am an openly gay person. My partner and I have been together for 14 years. And when I called her after that interview and asked her about conversion therapy, she was like, I don't know really details about what it is, but I know it's not good. And I Googled it after the interview, and I was just like, I mean, literally just, what did I just do? So that was certainly a learning experience for me. I obviously should have asked for clarification on a verbiage that I was not 100% clear on. I am absolutely not in support of any type of conversion therapy. When I was in college and I had I'll remember it for the rest of my life, when I had to approach my parents and attempt as a 18-year-old, no, 20, I was probably 20, and try to tell them that I was gay and I like girls. It was an absolute disaster. No offense to my parents who are listening to this call and dialed into this call. They've come a long way, but at first it was not a good thing. They were not open to the idea of having a lesbian for a daughter, and kudos to them, because now they welcome my partner as if she is part of our family. And that's helped our entire family to grow and accept people for who they are. And, with all the, I don't have to tell you guys, the suicide rates and, what comes of the pressures of being lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. It's a very, very stressful thing. And to do that as a kid, as a young person, is even more stressful. So I think the more people that we can open up to the idea that, you can either have a lesbian daughter or a gay son, or you can have no son because they wind up taking their own life because the stress is just too much. So I absolutely do not have anything positive to say about convergent therapy. I would never be for it. And if I could go back in time, I would absolutely undo that answer and right the wrong that I made that evening. So thank you for asking that question. I appreciate it.
No worries, greatly appreciated. And Deborah, to you, would you support a bill banning conversion therapy?
Absolutely. I am the sister of a gay woman. My sister came out to me when she was 21, and I always suspected, because she would go back and forth as to, who she was hanging out with. And my sister was a great sportswoman. She played college as well as high school basketball and softball. And I wasn't surprised by it. And I said to her, I said, you be who you want to be. I'll support you, whatever you want to do. She says, well, don't tell mom. And I said, okay, it's your show. It's your life. You're the one who has to make that decision. And when the time came, I went with her, and, we sat down. My dad had passed by that time, but my mother wasn't too surprised either. You know, our family, I'm lucky I was born into a family that was very accepting of a lot of different people. My mother was very progressive. I would dare say she was a feminist before there was even feminism. And so she was okay with it. And I'm very glad that my sister is happy, adjusted. She has a wonderful partner who I consider my sister-in-law. When I go up to Connecticut, I love spending time with them. So, you know, I think that any young person that is struggling and trying to figure out who they are doesn't need the pressure of conversion therapy, which has caused a lot of young people to take their lives. I think we need to support people and let them be who they are. And that's just who I am, is to accept people for who they are.
Perfect. Thank you, Deborah. So the next question is, so Representative Anna Escamani, she represents House District 47. She recently filed a bill to repeal the Florida Defense of Marriage Act, DOMA, which was passed by Florida voters in 2008. Would you co-sponsor and support that bill to repeal the Defense of Marriage Act? I'm going to go ahead and give that to you, Deborah.
Absolutely, it's a stupid bill. To say, you know, hey, we just support heterosexual unions and come out and say that everything else is wrong is really terrible. I really feel that, you know, it's a bill that's not necessary. It needs to go, and I would vote, and I would proudly put my co-sponsorship onto it.
Okay, thank you. And Chrissy?
Absolutely would be in support of that with Representative Escamani. You know, I don't see the need for government's involvement in, you know, what any person chooses to do with their own life as far as gender, sexuality, race, religion. There's no place for government to make those decisions for you. You know, it'd be the same to me as if I said, you know, everybody has to eat onions. You know, some people just don't like onions. I think everybody's got their own choice in how they, their particular lifestyle, and I don't think government has any part in taking, you know, having a say in that. So I would absolutely support that as well.
Perfect. So another question that we have is, will you support or co-sponsor the Florida Competitive Workforce Act to make it illegal to fire someone, deny them housing, or deny them access to public accommodations because of their sexual orientation or gender identity or expression? Chrissy?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no, you know, it's sort of the same. You know, it's hard for me to imagine a representative or a state senator even coming up with such an idea, such a bill. You know, there was a bill that some of the Senator Baxley, Representative Sabatini came up with, I think it was last year in the last session, you know, to limit the rights of transgender, of, you know, bisexual. It's just not their place. It's nobody's place to decide for you, whatever your desires are, you know, especially in the workplace. That some, you know, I just can't imagine that someone could possibly go to work every day and live with the fear of losing their job because of the person that they are. If I don't do my job, then absolutely, I deserve to be fired. But for a person to earn a job, to interview, to go through that process, and to work for an employer, and then lose that job because of what they might do outside of work, or where they go for drinks, or, you know, what they do in their own living room, that it's just, government has no place in that, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. And Deborah?
I definitely would not support anybody getting fired because they got married on Saturday and they come into work on Monday, and then because they married their soulmate who happened to be of the same sex. I really feel that's wrong. And it went on for years. I think I have quite a few years on Ms. Stiles. I'm 68 years old, so I remember when people were fired for their sexual orientation and their choices. And I've always been a supporter of personal freedom. I don't think it's the government's place to tell somebody what they can or cannot do in the privacy of their own home, or whether they should or can't marry somebody they love. I'm a supporter of personal freedom, and I would fight against any measure that would try and force somebody to live a life that's basically a lie. We should be tolerant of each other. I mean, I worked in a place before I left in 2018. I worked in a place where we had several transsexual women, and they used our bathroom, and there was quite an uproar with some of the women I worked with. And you know, I said, they're people. I said, get over it. And you know, so I would support any measure that would prohibit the government from, you know, allowing a business or a company, anyone to fire somebody because of their sexual orientation or the lifestyle.
Thank you. And actually, to that point, I wanted to ask this question. So a couple of years ago, North Carolina was in the news for a controversial bill dubbed the bathroom bill. Basically, the bathroom bill was to essentially force people who were of the specific assigned gender to use the restroom for their assigned gender. So if you're a male, you should use the men's room. If you're a female, you should use the women's room. And that bill targeted transgender people. Would you support such a bill? Why or why not?
You mean a bill? Do you want to make a bill that would target people and not allow them to use a bathroom they sexually identified, their sexual identity? If they felt that they were a woman, but they were really born a man, but they were forced to use a men's room, I couldn't support that. They should be able to use a bathroom where they're comfortable. And I thought it was terrible what happened in North Carolina. It cost them big time because people were boycotting them. You know, the same thing could happen if somebody got crazy in Florida and decided to enact such a law. I mean, there would be a horrendous economic price to pay because people would boycott Florida. You know, it's wrong to tell somebody you can't be who you are, whether it's to use the bathroom, whether it's to get married, whatever. I believe in personal freedom.
Okay, thank you. And Chrissy, same question.
So I feel like most of what that discussion in North Carolina really centered around a lot of parents who weren't comfortable with their children being in school, and maybe, you know, a transgender, a kid transitioning, or transgender child who was born a boy but would use the girls' restroom because that's how she identifies herself. I feel like that's the exact opposite of what we should be doing. So kids are born to love one another no matter who you are. It's the adults who teach them the hate and the horrible people they grow into. So at a school level, to teach kids at that age what a horrible thing it might be that a person who is the same as you, we're all human beings, can't use a bathroom that you might be using. It starts this trend that we've had for centuries. Instead of embracing that opportunity to make a change, as we're doing right now, like you were saying earlier, Brandon, there have been some people that have really paved the way for people like myself, who, when I have customers, I meet customers that are in their 60s and 70s, and they've been with their partner for 40, 50 years. It blows my mind. Those are the people who paved the way for people like me to feel comfortable enough to be the person that I am. So where we have an opportunity in schools to teach kids that it doesn't, I don't even know why we have separate bathrooms. If all the bathrooms were stalls, it shouldn't matter, who's using what, you wouldn't know. So I think that, in hindsight, North Carolina is probably really sorry for even, trying to embrace that bill, the idea of it. At least I hope they are. But I think it could have been used instead as a great opportunity to be inclusive of everybody. And that's, that's how I've always been. That's how I'll always be, that a human being is a human being, and it doesn't matter how they identify themselves, how you identify them just by looking at them. It shouldn't matter. And I would absolutely not support anything, any type of bill, whether it be at the state level or the federal level, to treat anybody unfairly.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a question coming in from one of our members, Robin Witt. Would you support legislation to add a non-binary gender marker option for state licenses? And I'll give that question first to Chrissy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it goes along the same lines that whether, kind of like the onion example, you don't know by looking at me if I love pepperoni or if I love cheese pizza. So, if there's a person who doesn't want to be referred to as him or her or she or he or male or female, that person prefers to be a non-binary, that should absolutely be an option. You can't, in my eyes, you can't force somebody to be something that they're not. And, going back to when I was in college, and I tried, after I had that conversation with my parents and saw their reaction to the fact that I was gay, I tried having another, relationship with a man, to see if maybe they were right and I was wrong. and that was a waste of 2 years of my life. But it led me to where I am now, so I have no regrets. But you cannot, and the more you try to force somebody to be something that they're not, the worse you're going to make it, in my opinion. It's like any argument. The more you throw gas onto the fire, the bigger the fire is going to get. So I would absolutely support that, that we don't have to check a box at all.
Okay, thank you, Chrissy. And Deborah, same question.
I agree. I mean, if somebody wants to say them or he or she or it or me or whatever, whoops. Oh, I lost something. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Somehow my band, something happened with my Zoom. It'll come back in a minute. But I believe that it's a personal choice, and government shouldn't be mandating he, she, miss, Mr., Ms. I really get annoyed when I get asked about the Miss question, or are you a Mrs.? That's not anyone's business. So that's what I would basically tell anybody that
I think we
lost her.
Looks like we lost Deborah. We'll let her chime back in just a moment. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next question. Will you support legislation requiring fair and equal access to essential health care for transgender persons?
Absolutely. And I would go so far as to allow, medical procedures that, again, I feel like I'm a broken record, but, to allow a woman who wants, a nose job, but then you wouldn't allow a medical procedure to a person who's either transitioning or is transgender, it doesn't get any more unfair than that. It's not what equality is about. And unfortunately, like I said, I feel like we make progress. In my lifetime, we've made a lot of progress, but we have a long, long way to go. And I think every person like myself who's willing to fight for the rights of every person, whether it be, anybody who's LGBTQ or religion, race, when the killing of George Floyd happened, and every city was looking for sort of something that they could do to show their their unity with not just Minneapolis but the rest of the nation. I had a big hand in putting together our Peace, Love, and Unity walk here in Mount Dora with one of our local pastors. We probably had 300 or 400 people out there in the rain, unfortunately, but it was my way of showing that I believe in equality for every single person. And I think that's something that I've proven on Mount Dora City Council, and it's certainly something I would continue to do at the state level.
Thank you, Chrissy. And Deborah, I see you were able to come back in.
Yeah.
Is your audio working fine?
Yeah, it is. I got kicked out for some strange reason. And can you, I didn't hear the question that you asked her. I got the gist of it.
Oh, absolutely. The question is, will you support legislation requiring fair and equal access to essential health care to transgender people?
Absolutely, I will. And part of the thing that I want to work for is expanding of Medicaid in Florida. We had 269 people who didn't have medical care who passed away, and you know. We need to be able to help our citizens, whether it's with, you know, sex assignment therapy or operations, or if it's diabetes or anything that's essential to your life, that you have a productive, good life. That's important to me. You know, as far as the, you know, I think that the march in Mount Dora, I heard that was very nice. Right after I participated in that, I went to the one in Apopka where they had something like 4,000 people. That was the most dynamic thing that I've done in a long time, besides the Women's March in Washington the day after Trump got inaugurated. I participated in that. And that march, to see thousands of people get down on the ground for that amount of time that George Floyd was killed was amazing. Even the mayor and the chief of police did that. It was a dynamic thing. And then the next day there was the march in Mount Dora that I participated in. I know that you probably had your bookstore open, so you couldn't do that. But there was about 30 or 40 of us who marched. And unfortunately, the tornado that struck down near Walmart kind of cut us short, but that was pretty dynamic. And I did the memorial out in Tavares on that Friday night before. So, you know, I've been a fighter for peace and justice, equality since the 1970s. Since my 20th year, I marched for women's rights. I would march for everybody's rights. I grew up in a household that was accepting of all people. I was very lucky because a lot of people really didn't have the experience I had with my parents. My mother always exposed us to a lot of different people, and I was very grateful for it. And so, you know, my whole quest as far as running for state house is to make the delegation a little bit more humane. We have a lot of people who are very right of center. And I think that it's time that we had somebody who cared about what people thought and cared less about big business in the state of Florida. That's why I'm running. I want to work for the people.
Thank you, Deborah. We have
Brandon, may I say one thing in response to that? I apologize.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely.
Just wanted to clarify one quick thing. That Saturday evening of that walk, I was not at my bookstore. I was actually at Collie Lot Park, where the walk was intended to have ended, with the folks who weren't able to actually participate in the walk. It was a rather lengthy walk. So I was actually at Collie Lot Park, watching the weather roll in and just making sure everybody got out of there safely. So just wanted to clarify that. I wasn't at my bookstore.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have another question coming in from one of our members, Brooke Wilson. What is one of the first items you want to address if you are elected to State House 31? And I'll give that question to Chrissy first.
Okay. It certainly would be the unemployment system, which many of you probably, if not yourselves, know somebody who has, I say, be a victim of our broken unemployment system. So I have customers, I have family members who were either furloughed or laid off from their jobs, and it took months for them to see even a penny of unemployment. I don't think anybody could disagree that our system is broken, and that is certainly the first thing I would address in Tallahassee, because you've got people, you know, this is the start of a cycle. If you can't collect a paycheck and the state's not there for you when you pay into the unemployment system, that you can't get your money when you need it, then you're not paying your rent, or you're not paying your mortgage, you're not feeding your family, and it's a snowball effect that puts people out on the streets. It puts people out of work permanently, and it's something that could have been avoided, and if I have anything to say about it, it will never happen as it happened this time ever again.
Thank you. And Deborah, same question?
Well, I like her answer on that. I would say that that would be one of my goals, but there's also something that's very pressing that has been going on for a long time with the way we treat the 4 private schools. They are entitled to the construction funds that the public schools has, which has been a major problem. 40% of the charter schools fail, and we have no mechanism to take back that property once they fail. So our taxpayers' money goes to buy buildings, renovate buildings, and they get to keep it, sell it, make a profit out of it, turn it into whatever they want to if they hold on to it. And that money is lost to the taxpayers of that school district. I want to claw that money back. I want to have us take that property back. We don't have a mechanism right now. It's a major problem for our school districts, and it would ensure more money coming back into our school system, public school system. So that's one of the things I want to work with. Obviously, the unemployment system. Governor DeSantis knew 6 months before this all happened that the website was not going to work. It was unworkable. And in 2010, as far as the unemployment, Governor Scott, as well as Baxley, who's still a state senator, and other people who are still in the state house, voted to roll back the benefits, roll back the time that you can be on unemployment. And those are things that really need to be fixed. But we also need to hold the person who designed that website accountable for the mistakes that occurred that are still impacting the people of Florida. So those are 2 primary things I'd like to work on.
Thank you, Deborah. So both of you mentioned, the broken unemployment system here in Florida, and excuse me, and a lot of Floridians are having issues paying, their basic utilities like rent and electricity and whatnot. The current minimum wage in the state of Florida is $8.56 an hour. The minimum wage goes up just a few pennies every year. Would you support legislation in the state house to raise the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour, so that Floridians can actually have a livable wage, so they can actually earn a living and pay their specific bills, and also put away some money for savings for a rainy day, or even save up money for a vacation? And I'll let Deborah go first.
I'm on record in support of Fight for 15 that Senator Torres has been pushing for quite a long time, that John Morgan has been pushing for a long time. I committed to that in 2018 when I ran. I still believe that it's a good starting point. Obviously there are people who are concerned that if you pay $15 an hour, it's going to bankrupt small businesses. Studies have shown in Seattle, for example, that it actually helped the economy. It helped the businesses because when people have more money in their pockets, they're going to spend it. The low wage earners are more apt to spend money than the high wage earners, who will put it into stocks and bonds. When people are trying to get by, they are trying to pay their rent, put money in the bank for their kids' education, and put food on their table. Obviously, we need to do something. It's not enough money. For example, I worked in a law firm for a while, preparing attorney for her cases, and so I was making $12 an hour. And I honestly, it supplemented my Social Security, but it wasn't enough. I wasn't working a 40-hour week, and I could tell you the things got a little tight for a while, and that's why I went back to work full time. So I understand how it is that you need more money. One of my coworkers was living in a duplex, and they were charging her $700 a month. She was a good tenant. Somebody else bought the duplex and hiked it to more than $1,000 a month. She couldn't afford it. She lived on people's couches for months till she can find something she can afford. So I'm very well aware of it. In Connecticut, I was a founder of the Interfaith Housing Shelter. We built a shelter that helped people who were then sleeping in their cars in the dead of winter have a place to go so that they could save money and then get their place to live. So, you know, I have a history of helping people and fighting for causes. And, you know, I would take that to Tallahassee. I really want to push affordable housing, income inequality, want to fight to make sure that we raise the wage here, and also bring in jobs that pay decently. These service sector jobs that are brought into Florida and they're given all sorts of incentives are not going to fix the problem here. We need to attract better jobs and put more money into vocational education so people have trades so they can earn better wages.
Thank you, Deborah. And same question goes to Chrissy.
I would absolutely be in support of a living wage of at the minimum $15. So these are folks who are the first ones to spend money. So I've been a small business owner for just about 9 years, and I know my customers. I know who shops at the other stores downtown. I know who eats at the restaurants here, and it's always the people who work here. It's the people who work around me. It's my neighbors. It's my friends. It's the people who are making $8.56 an hour. And still they're taking what little they have and spending it in our stores and our restaurants. These are folks who will improve their quality of life, not just because they're making more money, but because making more money and being more comfortable in being able to pay your bills, to feed your kids, to feed your dog, makes you less stressed, makes you happier. So I do community chats every third Thursday. I host a community chat with any wide variety of experts. The next one is actually going to be a financial advisor. So to me, it's important to educate people. So folks who are going to go from making $8.56 an hour up to $15 an hour could absolutely use education on not how to spend their money, but how to save their money. And how to best provide for their future, for their family. When you're making $8.56 an hour, you are not planning for your future. You're not socking money away. You're just barely getting by. And I've been there. I've been there for a long time. It's unfortunate that it's gone on for this long, and I would be a huge proponent for $15 an hour. That is a living wage, and that's what every Floridian deserves.
Thank you, Chrissy. We have a question coming in from Glenna Birch. Because the Florida House, even after this election, will be overwhelmingly Republican, how can you, as part of the minority party, make a difference in state policies and statutes, especially in regards to the LGBTQ plus community? Chrissy?
So my experience on Mount Dora City Council, although our positions are nonpartisan, it's obvious that I work with Republican fellow council members. So I have experience working with people who are Democrats, Republicans. I will bring that same experience to the state level and be able to reach across party lines to work with folks, both Republicans and Democrats, to get my ideas across. I feel like, you know, I recently graduated from Leadership Lake, which is a course here that really points out what happens in Lake County as far as business goes, government, just everything that happens in Lake County as far as business goes. And I've met so many Republicans and established so many relationships with Republicans, in addition to the customers who shop at my store, people I've helped through city council who, you know, when you live in Mount Dora and you come to city council with an issue, you don't go to one particular council member because they're Democrat or Republican. You just want help. And I would do the same thing at the state level. I don't care who you are, what you are. If you live in Florida and you're unhappy about something, I'm going to help you. I don't have kids, so I can't say that I am, you know, have a direct dog in the fight of public schools, but that's a huge, huge issue to me. And it is because I've spoken to so many people who it's important to. So just because, you know, if something's important to you, it's important to me, is what I'm trying to say. And as far as relating it specifically to lesbian, bisexual, gay issues, I think as I've earned the respect of both Republicans and Democrats, and then with myself being a lesbian, with that respect that I've earned from these people, it makes me able to work with them and able to understand that, you respected me before you knew, my chosen lifestyle, who I actually am. And I can still work with those people and hopefully make them understand that these issues are important. Just because, however you were raised, whatever you grew up on believing, these issues are important to people as human beings. And I think I can be really successful in Tallahassee, making people understand how important these issues are.
Okay.
Thanks for the question, Glenna.
Thank you, Chrissy. And same question goes to Deborah.
Well, I've gone up to Tallahassee. I've done tally days with the Democratic Women's Club. I interfaced with both Republicans and Democrats while I was there. I do know a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats. I brought a lot of Republicans into voting for me in 2018. Traditionally, we have not fared as well because we haven't gotten Republicans to vote for Democrats, but a lot of people who share a lot of the same concerns about expanding healthcare, public education, vocational education, making sure that people have a decent place to live. It doesn't mean that you are a Democrat, Republican, or independent. Those are issues that cut across a wide variety. When you're elected to represent everybody. But I do have a lot of friends in Tallahassee, a lot of the state reps. I worked with several of them on the fight to keep that Confederate statue out of Tavares. Ms. Thompson, for example. I know Ms. Berman. I know quite a few. I have quite a few friends both in the state house and the state senate. Randall Bracey, Ms. Brown. I've talked to them all. I've been at meetings with them. I've been quite active. I went to all the legislative forums that have gone on even before I was a candidate. So, and I even had a pretty good talking relationship with Ms. Sullivan from time to time. So it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican to me. If you have an issue, I would help represent you, whether you're gay, straight, bisexual, transsexual. If there's something that you need, I'm going to go fight for you because I believe that everyone has a right to a decent lifestyle, and I believe in advocating for other people. I've already done it with interfaith housing shelter in Connecticut, arts programs for poor people up in Connecticut when I was a vice president of the Arts Council there. I was a compact mentor in Orange County. I had 2 kids who were at risk that I helped get through high school. I've done a lot of work, advocacy work with NOW and other groups. And so I think I can advocate very well, even though I've never held a elected official job. I covered quite a few elected people. I was a reporter for 27 years, primarily government, courts. So I do understand what the process is. And I did qualify going door to door, talking to quite a few people. I'm the only person in this race that got 1,165 signatures to run. I didn't pay the fee. I felt it's important to have people's buy-in, and I talked to Republicans and Democrats and independents at the door, and all the positions that I talk about are the positions that they told me were important to them, and I will advocate for them. I don't care what party you belong to or what your lifestyle is. If you have an issue, I'm going to work for you.
Thank you, Deborah. We have another question coming in from Robin. Would you back an initiative to require all members of the Florida House of Representatives to receive annual training on LGBTQ plus awareness? Deborah?
Education's power. So if, you can make somebody aware of somebody else's lifestyle and make them more sensitive, then you're going to have to do better voting. You can't really vote on something you don't understand. So I think it's a great idea to do that. Let's even expand it to understanding other people's religions. I mean, there are a lot of people who don't understand what being a Muslim is, or being a Jew is, or being somebody who's an atheist. I really think that, we have people who have such a narrow perspective of life and other people's lives. We need to expand that out. Let's get people to understand each other. Let's work towards having a more harmonious society. And that means if we can educate other people to be more sensitive, I'm all for that.
Okay, thank you. And Chrissy?
Absolutely. So I think education is probably the most important thing. To open awareness for LGBT issues. It again goes back to just human beings being human beings, but sometimes it takes education to, sometimes you got to shake that person and let them know, because it may not be important to them. Just as I use the example that I don't have kids, but schools are important to me. Sometimes, it shouldn't be this way, but sometimes you have to put it right in somebody's face. And to do that through education is probably the only way we'll be successful. I have experience doing that on city council, not with LGBT issues, of course, but in the past it's happened where, sometimes you have to sit somebody down and say, this doesn't happen in the country club of Mount Dora, but it certainly happens in downtown Mount Dora. And so, when you're trying to get 4 votes out of 7 people to get something done, that's sometimes what it takes. And that's the effort I've put in for the last 2 years. And I will continue to do that in Tallahassee. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Next question is, will you oppose taxpayer dollars being used to subsidize private and charter schools that discriminate against LGBTQ plus students and families? Deborah?
I would definitely make sure that we didn't give money to those institutions. It's not only LGBT, but they also discriminate against handicapped people. I have a supporter who has a kid with autism, and she went to a charter school and they put the kid in a corner and they didn't do anything for it, but they took the money. I really feel that we should not be funding anybody who discriminates against anybody's lifestyle, color, religion, disability. I think it's wrong, and let's put some measures together to make sure they don't get the money.
Okay. Thank you. And Chrissy, same question?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be in support of that. It just goes back to the whole reason I'm running the quality of life, and to supply funds to an institution that's going to treat anybody differently than any other human. It doesn't work for me, and I would never be in support of it.
Okay, thank you. Next question coming in from Robin Witt. Please describe any work you have done to promote LGBTQ plus rights in your community. Chrissy?
Sure. So my partner and I are members of our Triangle group, Triangle Connection group up here, which is Tavares, Eustis, Mount Dora. This organization has grown tremendously, and our population of transgender has also grown. So I probably about 6 months ago donated probably about 40 books, just back to education. So this is for kids to bring home to their parents to learn about transgender, what it's like to be trans, what it is to transition, what it is like to be that person, going through this process. And to me, that was the least that I could do. And so this organization started out, I believe it started out with all gay men, if I'm not mistaken, but over the years, it's obviously grown into include women, and anybody who's LGBTQ. So we've got hundreds and hundreds of members. We were meeting monthly before COVID, of course, and I'm sure we'll get right back to that just as soon as this virus is gone. But it's an organization that makes great strides in our community. We are very available, especially to our trans youth, and it's all about education, and I was happy to take part in that by donating those books. I'm happy to take part in the organization. We also used to have an organization here in Lake County. When LOL first became popular, it was called LOL, and it was Lesbians of Lake. And it was started by 2 women. They were actually our next door neighbors. And it was great. We met monthly, just at somebody else's house every other month. And it was just, we had tons of fun, and we, again, it was all inclusive. whether you were straight or gay, you could come, because we wanted to let as many people as possible know that we are also just people hanging out in somebody's backyard, having fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm absolutely involved. I earlier today became a member of your Rainbow Democrats organization proudly, and I'm in full support of anybody who wants to be educated on the issues that affect us, particularly our youth, who are trying to come out, trying to be the real person that they are.
Thank you, Chrissy, and thank you, by the way, for becoming a member of the Rainbow Democrats. We welcome you with
Sure.
open arms.
Thanks.
And Deborah, same question?
Well, I haven't done it on a citywide basis, but going back to what I talked about the coworker who was being harassed by some of the women for using, the bathroom because he was trans. He and his partner were both trans, and there were women who were going to management and objecting to that and saying that we shouldn't have that and they shouldn't be in the bathroom. And I advocated for them. I was friendly with the head of the company, and I said, listen, we need to be open here. We need to support them. And I tried to talk with the people to make them understand. I have friends who have children who have transitioned out into another lifestyle. I've gone from female to male and male to female, and I've always been a friend to them and listened to them. I have a lot of gay friends. And so, I've advocated for them all my life, my own sister. So on a one-to-one basis, yes, I've advocated. As far as government, no, I haven't done that. But at work, I did. And, I think, given the opportunity, I would be a strong fighter.
Okay. Thank you. And we have another question coming in from Robin. This will be the second to last question. During this debate, both candidates have made mistakes when referring to the transgender community, such as using the incorrect outdated term transsexual, or referring to trans women as being born a man. How will you work to educate yourself on the transgender community, knowing that you may represent them in the future? And I'll start with Chrissy.
Sure. I obviously, from the conversion therapy question of 2 weeks ago, am always willing to be educated. So I had a couple who came into my store when I first announced that I was going to run for this state house seat, and let me know that the wife had been in a car accident twice. Both times she was the passenger, and both times was hit by an uninsured motorist. That's never happened to me. So that the idea of ever having to fight for that in Tallahassee, for that everybody should be insured, because now this woman has had to file 2 claims with her own insurance when the accident was neither time she wasn't driving and it wasn't her fault, obviously. So she's now almost about to be dropped by her insurance company because both times she was hit by an uninsured motorist. That's never happened to me, so it never dawned on me that that's something that somebody needs to address, and that's something that I will address for her, because it's important to her, and if it's important to her, it's probably important to a lot of people, although that admittedly may not happen often. Using that just as an example, I am always, I can't say that I'm perfect. I will never earn 100% of the vote, I'm positive of that, but I will always work to better educate myself. Just as I did after the other, 2 weeks ago after the Orange County Democrat interview. The other thing I went home and learned was one of the questions was, how many mosques are there in our district? And I had no idea. I couldn't answer the question, but as soon as we ended the Zoom call, I immediately Googled it, and there's only one mosque. It's in Eustis. It's called the Tavares Islamic Center. Oddly enough that it's in Eustis, but it's called Tavares. And I immediately emailed the vice chair of the Orange County Democrats to let her know that I, did my homework, and just so that she would know there's one mosque in our district. So I'm absolutely always open to education, because I'm certainly not perfect. I never will be perfect, but I definitely learn from every one of these calls. Absolutely.
Thank you, Chrissy. And Deborah?
Always open to learning, and if I used a term incorrectly, I definitely would like to learn from that, because I don't want to offend anybody. And when you don't know, you sometimes may say something that is offensive to somebody, and it's always good to have that correction. So please educate me. I'm good about that. Education's key to me. I've learned a lot. It's how I became a very good reporter. I had to learn about things that I didn't know about, and such as AIDS. I had a friend that passed away from AIDS, and he kept his lifestyle secret. We're talking about the 1980s, and we did a series of interviews prior to his death that he said, you can publish it, Deb, after. And I wrote an award-winning series on AIDS. He had Kaposi's. And I learned a lot because AIDS was not well known at that time in the 1980s. So I learned a lot about things that were affecting other people. I'm always open to learning about things. It makes you a better person.
Okay, thank you. And actually, Deborah, your response actually leads us to our final question that we're going to ask this evening, and then we'll give you both opportunity for closing statements. So the popular drug Truvada, which is a prophylaxis to prevent the transmission of HIV/AIDS, and also a lot of HIV/AIDS medications that HIV/AIDS patients take for treatment, they cost thousands upon thousands of dollars. And an employer here in Florida actually prevented some of their employees from actually being able to access affordable treatment for HIV/AIDS and also the medication Truvada. And it wasn't until Representative Carlos Guillermo Smith actually called that employer out and brought them to task and actually got them to reverse course. So they were able to reverse course and say, hey, we're going to cover this in our healthcare plan now. With that being said, would either of you support legislation that would put into law to bring down the cost of HIV/AIDS medication and in turn the popular drug Truvada? I'm going to go with Chrissy first.
Yeah, absolutely. To be quite honest, this is another one of those things where I can be educated on, because I don't have any experience with anybody that I know who has had any types of troubles having access to any type of medication. But it's certainly something that I would support because, you know, kind of back to what I've been saying since the beginning, it's unfair. It's unfair for me as a state representative to produce a bill that limits the medication that anybody is entitled to, no matter what the medication is for, what the person's lifestyle, beliefs, race, religion, sexual identity might be. So, you know, to limit medication to anybody, no matter what the medication is for, is not something that I can support because, you know, simply put, what if that person was me? You know, that's my way of thinking with everything that I address. You know, as I said before, not to sound like a broken record, but I go back to the things that don't necessarily seem like issues that I may ever have to deal with. But if it's important to somebody who lives in Mount Dora, and I am a Mount Dora City Council member at large representing this entire city, that issue just became important to me. And I will do everything that I can to fight for that person because, as I said before, also, there's probably somebody else who it's important to too. And especially with LGBTQ issues, there's probably somebody else who doesn't feel comfortable enough speaking out about it, asking for help. And so if that one person that comes forward and does ask for help and initiates such a bill to help themselves, it's obviously going to benefit other people who may not be comfortable or may not have the strength to speak up. And so that's something that can benefit a lot of people. And I would absolutely be in support of that.
Thank you, Chrissy. And Deborah?
I think not only Truvada and other drugs, expansion of Medicaid in the state of Florida will help a lot of people afford their medication. But I really believe that we should be looking to lower drug costs no matter what the drug is. And I think we did something with Canadian drugs, getting Canadian drugs into Florida. But I really, goes back to, you know, an employer having too much say over what somebody's lifestyle is. My feeling is, you know, and the Supreme Court unfortunately sided with religious institutions recently over birth control. I really believe that we should be helping people, not hurting people. So I would be a fighter for that. I know Carlos very well. Consider him a friend, and look forward to being able to work with him and the rest of the delegation to do things that are going to help people, not hurt people. And so I would be really a fighter to make sure that people got the coverage and get the drugs they need. And whether it's for AIDS or insulin for diabetes or anything that affects heart disease, we should be fighting to make people's lives better. So, you know, if you're not running to help people, if you're not running to make people's lives better, you shouldn't be running at all.
Excellent, and I couldn't agree more with that, Deborah. So that brings us to the conclusion of the debate for House District 31. I want to thank both candidates, both Deborah Kaplan and Chrissy Stile, for being a part of this, and I want to offer it up for a 2-minute closing statement, starting with Chrissy.
Sure. Well, thank you again, Brandon and Matthew and Jack and all the members of the Rainbow Democrats for hosting this debate. I'm really happy to be a part of it, happy to be a part of your organization. So as I said at the beginning, it's my experience in government, it's my education, it's my energy. From the second I wake up in the morning, from the time I lay my head down, I do not stop moving, and my family can attest to that. My neighbors can attest to that. I'm just always doing something, and I feel like 99% of the time that something is always trying to help other people to do the right thing. I volunteer at the Lake Harris Food Pantry here in town. Like I said, I have my bookstore, which allows me to make myself available to the residents at pretty much any time. My personal cell phone is all over the internet. People know how to reach me because like I said, when I was first elected, I would have never imagined in my wildest dreams that I would fall in love with this position, serving the public, being a public servant. And you know, people joke about being a politician, but I really don't see this position, particularly the State House position, as being a politician. I really do see it as a public servant. I think anybody that you talk to in the city of Mount Dora and even our surrounding cities would tell you that they have complete confidence in me. This seat obviously is going to be a tough seat to win for a Democrat, but I am 100% confident that I can win it just based on the respect that I have from Republicans, Democrats, Independents. I have endorsements from the Fraternal Order of Police here in Mount Dora, Lodge number 147. I have the endorsement of a 3-star retired Army general that lives here in Mount Dora. I've also had the endorsement of the Orlando Sentinel, which I'm super proud of. And I would absolutely love to add the endorsement of the Rainbow Democrats to my webpage, to my campaign literature that I pass out. It would really mean a lot to me to have the endorsement of your organization. And I'm positive in Tallahassee, the only person who's really going to be able to work the hardest for LGBTQ issues, like you mentioned, Representative Smith, is a person who actually has lived it. And that's me. My partner and I are together forever with our 3 little rescue doggies, and it's a life we've made for ourselves. It's a happy life, and I would love to share that with as many people as I can to educate them, to make a lot of these issues no longer issues we can debate about. So thank you again for having me. I appreciate it, everybody who's listening, and my website is chrissyforflorida.com, and I would invite you to check it out, and please vote for me in the Democratic primary, which is August 18th. And thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. And Deborah?
Sure, Deborah.
Okay, well, I thank you also for the opportunity to talk with you tonight. It meant a lot to me. I've been involved with gay issues on and off for over 30 years, both as a reporter and in my own personal life with friends and family who are gay and coworkers advocating for them. I was endorsed the other day by Brady for my stance on gun violence. Would be a tireless worker, as you know. Pulse was caused by somebody who should never have had a weapon like that and murdered all those people. So I want to make sure that we take care of those gun regulations. We advocate for gun safety. I was also endorsed by NowPAC for my stances on equality for women, and that's not only heterosexual women, it's trans women, it's gay women. Want to work and make sure that the way women are treated in our prisons, especially if they are in the LGBTQ, are better than what's going on now. I have a lot of people who've talked to me about the issues in prisons and how they're being affected with body cavity searches and things like that. I want to be on justice for that very reason, to advocate for people. I believe that I am the very best person to have this seat because I have been very active in the community. I may not have been an elected official, but I worked against the statue. I work for giving out meals at the holidays with the Soul of Lake. I've touched a lot of people who are living in the bushes and living in the woods. I have dealt with a lot of people with various lifestyles. I have worked both in large and small corporations. I know what working in Florida is like. It's different than owning a bookstore or any other business. And I did own a business. I was a very successful Avon rep for 18 years with a downline, and I had to hire and fire people. So I do know what it is to manage a business. But my feeling is that I'm a very well-rounded person. I've exceeded in everything I've ever done. I'll exceed as a state rep. And people in this community, not only Lake, but Orange, know me. I've been active for years, even when I wasn't running. So I want to take all of the activity that I've been involved with and all the different people that I've engaged with and represent them all. You know, I'm a member of a minority. I'm a Jewish person. I know what it's like to have to fight for that, to be persecuted and be. When I worked in Apopka, and I had people who took issue with what my religion was. So I've fought against that kind of injustice also, and proven myself won people over. So I really feel that I have a history of fighting for people and getting things done, especially a homeless shelter. And we do need one, and we need more in Florida that are going to help people, and affordable housing. And I am committed to getting things done. I do work for a company right now, but you know, if the job depends, the job could go if I get elected. And I could be a full-time rep without having to worry about anything else other than serving the people of Florida.
Thank you very much, Deborah.
And can I just add, vote for me on August 18th for the primary, and my website is www.commonsensecaplan2020, and everything that I talked about is there with my history, my background, and my endorsements.
Okay. Thank you very much, Deborah, and thank you again, Chrissy, and everyone who asked questions this evening. I want to thank you very much for a very productive debate, and I wish everybody a great night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.